Welcome back to Cozy Crossing. I'm Morgan, and today we are going to be ranking all of the bovine villagers. So that's the cows and the bulls. There's not many of either, so I thought combining them in one video would be really fun. But before we get into that, just remember these are just my opinions, and you guys may have different ideas about who's the number one cow and who is the least likable cow. So just drop them down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think. Alright, so the first bovine on our list today is the bull Angus. Now, Angus has been around in the game for quite some time, and he has a very signature look. He has always had this Flames t-shirt, and I absolutely love that about him. I think it's just a really unique part of his character, and in a way, it kind of plays into his name too. Angus could be named after a specific kind of beef, or a specific kind of cow, the Aberdeen Angus cow, but it could kind of play into like Angus beef patties, like you cook them, flames, or it could just be angry because he's a cranky villager too. So like Angus angry. It's kind of interesting. I think he's a very cute little bull. He seems really sweet. He also seems like the sensitive type. One of his quotes he has is, "Even strong men cry." So he's a little sensitive, I think. I like him, but he's not really the particular character I would go out of my way to go find. So for me, Angus is a B tier. Up next, we have Coach. Now, Coach really does actually look like a high school gym coach. He has the 5 o'clock shadow facial hair situation going on, and his catchphrase kind of ties into that too. His catchphrase is stubble. I don't like the way he looks, and he just looks angry, like he's about to tell you to go run laps, and I am just not a real big fan of Coach, and there's really not much going on with his character. So honestly, Coach is an F tier for me. Alright, then we have Naomi. Now, Naomi is one of the most popular cows, and I can see why, but I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. Her name Naomi comes from a stereotypical name in Japan given to rustic or country girls, which kind of makes sense because cows, country, rustic, but she is overall a snooty cow, and they do play into this a bit, but they could have built off a little bit more with Naomi. She has some red eyeliner, pink blush, and bright red lipstick, which some of the snooty villagers will have quite a bit of like makeup, and I really like that. But she doesn't really play into it in many other ways. Her catchphrase is moolah, like money, and she wants to be a designer. And I feel like there was a lot that could have been built into Naomi, like culture or like something to do with how much she loves makeup, because she has quite a bit of makeup compared to some of these other villagers. But when I look at her, I see this really unique cow, and I don't really get a lot of unique characteristics or personality out of her. She just seems to be your classic snooty character with this cow build. And so she's great, but there could have been a lot more added to Naomi to make her more special, more unique. So for me, she's a C tier. I can see why you'd want her, but she's just not for me. And then we get to Norma. Now, Norma is actually on my island. She is so sweet. I absolutely love her. Her name is a possible reference to Norma Lyon, aka the butter cow lady. She used to create elaborate sculptures out of butter, and her most iconic one is made of a cow made out of butter, and it is a really cool sculpture. And I think it would be really sweet if Norma was actually named after her. And I think she's inspired by her, but there's not much you can tie on into that other than cows. She is really cute. I love her color scheme. She's very sweet, and I really like her just overall sense of style. I just love the look. Her catchphrase is hoof hoo, which is supposed to be like a little laugh kind of thing, but you add hoof to make it more like a cow. She is a normal villager, which is my favorite type of villager. She is just precious. She likes to walk around my island, reading a lot, watering all the flowers. She is so sweet, and she is a forever resident of my island. She is an S tier for me. She is never leaving. I don't care if she asks to leave. She is staying on my island. I love her so much. All right, then we get to Patty. Now, Patty is a really interesting cow, and I just love her. Her name could be a reference to a handful of things. When I first think of Patty, I think of like a hamburger patty, which is kind of dark, you don't want to eat these cows. But it also could be a reference to cow patties, which is like how cows poop just falls in a cow field. It leaves really disc-like shapes. But that's kind of gross. But patty is also just this name typically given to just sweet, kind women. So I kind of want to lean more that route rather than like cow patty or hamburger patty. But it's just, there's a lot of ties to Patty and cows, and I just think it's a good name for a cow. She's also the only bovine to appear in every game in the Animal Crossing series. A couple of the cows don't come back for certain games, they're not in Pocket Camp, but Patty is in everything, and I think that's just really special. I also just really like her overall aesthetic. She has this nice chocolatey brown, and she's wearing this orange dress. So she makes me think of those little chocolates that are like orange, but also like covered in chocolate. Those are so good and so sweet. And she just gives me this really sweet and like unique vibe. And I love it so much. It also kind of ties into like her dreams. She wants to be a pastry chef, and I think that is so cool. So she wants to make pastries. She has this really sweet aesthetic style, and she's just so sweet. I love her. And honestly, like, I already have a cow on my island, but I would 100% let Patty move in if I saw her in my campsite, or if she was just roaming around on an island. I would bring her home. For me, Patty is an S tier. I think she's such a sweet cow and just a sweet character in general. And next we have Rodeo. Now, Rodeo is possibly another Angus cow, but he's a black Angus cow. So, like, he's quite a little bit different than Angus, who is a red Angus cow. But he is a really solid character. He was actually on my New Leaf Island for a little bit, and I really liked having him around. He is a lazy villager, and he plays into like this kind of astronaut theme in his house because he wants to be an astronaut. So he has a telescope, and in some of his previous houses he has more like in-depth little space-themed things. And when you get him on your island in New Horizons, he has a little graduation gown. So I like to think that Rodeo's freshly graduated and he is trying to become an astronaut. He's studying space, and I think that is so cool. And honestly, I'd like to have him on my island again someday, but he's not as iconic to me as Norma or Patty. So for me, he is going to be an A tier. And then we get to Stu. Now, Stu, I think his name comes from the idea of beef stew, which, again, most of these cow names kind of play into food, which is kind of weird because you don't want to be eating your villagers. But he has this nice, cute aesthetic. I just absolutely love his blue color. And I really like his catchphrase, too. It's moo, but with an R, so it's supposed to sound more authentic kind of a moo, so not just stereotypical moo. He is a genuine moo. And I think he's really cute. His inside of his house is really kidcore city style, and so if he was on a kidcore island, or if I had a kidcore island, I would 100% have him. But my island is not really that aesthetic, and he doesn't really have that much going other than he's just a really cute guy. He seems nice. So he's a B tier for me. Like, I would like him, but it would have to be in certain circumstances I'd take him on my island. And then we get to T-Bone, another food reference for a name. He is a cranky villager, and his catchphrase is moocher, but an exaggeration on the ooh, so moocher. He wants to be a police officer, and honestly, that's kind of all there is to T-Bone. He's kind of goofy looking, and kind of just, he's a cow. He seems like an alright guy, but he's just not for me. T-Bone is a solid C tier. Alright, and then we have Tipper. Now, Tipper is a really cute cow. Whenever you think of cows, you think of Tipper. She's got that classic white with black spots that most people think of when they think of cows, and I just absolutely love her. She is adorable. Now, I think her name comes from the idea of cow tipping, which is when people, predominantly in the South, go and tip cows over while they're sleeping for fun. I do not endorse cow tipping, by the way. And I think that also kind of plays into her catchphrase, which is pushy, because you push these cows over. But I think it also kind of, I just love everything she's got going on with her name, her catchphrase. It's really like a unique tie-in to cows, but not making it all about food, which we've seen with quite a few of these villagers. They have food-related names, which I feel like is weird because you don't want to eat villagers. She is a snooty villager, but snooty villagers have started to grow on me just a little bit. I really like her. She doesn't give me the stereotypical snooty vibe. A lot of snooty villagers are really into makeup and fashion, but she is really into learning violin. She wants to be a violinist. She likes staying up late, so I just imagine her staying up late practicing, learning, and her house shows a lot of that too. She has a piano in her house, and she has this elegant, almost just musician kind of appeal to her, and I really like her. She's precious, she's sweet, she's cute. For me, she's an A tier. I wish there was just a little bit more with Tipper to make her an S tier, but for me, she's a solid A. I would love to have her on my island one day. Alright, and last but not least, we have Vic. Now, Vic is supposed to be Vic as in like a Viking, and I think the idea of having a Viking villager is really cool, but there was a lot more they could have done with Vic, in my opinion. His catchphrase is cud, like cows chew their cud, which is a good catchphrase, don't get me wrong, but with a villager kind of having this campy vibe like a Viking or anything like this kind of character, I wish they would have tied the catchphrase in. He wants to be an archaeologist, which in a way could kind of tie into that, like he wants to study archaeology and Norse archaeology. But his house is nice too, but it doesn't really scream Viking to me like his appearance does. Like everything about his aesthetic, like his look that his actual character has, screams Viking, but nothing else about him does. He seems like a nice character, but there's not really a lot going on, and I feel like there's a lot more that Nintendo could have done with Vic. So honestly, he's a B tier for me. He seems like a great guy, but he isn't someone I go out of my way to go find. Alright, and that was a look at all of our bovine villagers. Next week, I'm going to be looking into the cat villagers, and I'm going to be ranking all of them. I may split it up into a couple of videos just to make it easier to dive into each one individually, so it's not just, this cat I like, and move on. So we can dive into more of their characters, and I'm really excited. The cats are some of my favorite villagers. But until then, stay cozy.